through enduring hardships. The tears of pain I shed today will be the tears of joy I shed tomorrow. The brave never fall. We rise and maintain balance through freedom and connection. I'm Coach mjdtiger, life coach and mentor. Helping others find their passion, peace, and purpose in life brings me my passion, peace, and purpose in life. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Welcome to Vibes. Each day, love is capable of surprising us unexpectedly. Our presence is required in order to benefit from it. Love will always persevere, yet only when we see the beautiful value of it. When we see things, they become real. When we imagine them, it almost seems as if it's a fantasy, something that we can't turn into reality, but that is fundamentally not true. What we feel in our hearts and what we see in our minds, we can create and bring into life reality. What we feel is a part of us. And one of those big things that are a part of us where we can't deny it even if we wanted to, even the people who will deny they have never loved and will never love anyone, the fact that they even know what love is means they understand what it is. And something like love and appreciation of life and the people, places, and things that will ultimately define us in the end, who we were and what we did when we have our time here on this planet. We have to understand that things like love is bigger than each individual. It begins with us because we have to experience ourselves loving other people, places, and things. But the extent of our love and the impact it has on other people when we're here and even when we're gone, that is something to think about. That is something that is far beyond our minds and our bodies and what's in our hearts. What's in our hearts transcends our lifetime on this planet, and it is fundamentally needed for us to see it and feel it. Otherwise, what is it? It only perseveres when we acknowledge it and we see it for what it is. How are you feeling? How are you feeling mentally, within your mind? How are you feeling physically, throughout your body? How are you feeling emotionally, within your heart? How are you feeling spiritually, within your soul? These are questions I ask myself daily, morning, noon, and night before I head to bed and lay my head down on my pillow for some peaceful and hopefully powerful sleep. I ask myself, mind, body, heart, and soul, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, how am I feeling? So I ask you in this moment to do the same. Take a moment of silence and ask yourself, how are you feeling? Each step we take, we make with purpose. Intentionally, nothing can hurt us. Perhaps for a short time, yet nothing is permanent. Eventually, our time will come. It's not a question of when, rather, what we do with it. Slow down, breathe, contemplate. Enjoy the flowers all around us, the hours we experience and leave behind us, the company of those we love most, the people we loathe, and the souls lost. They're all a part of our story. Be grateful at all costs. For those warm as the sun and those as cold as the frost. They all play a part of our days and nights. Even the flower that blooms slowest will eventually see its last sunrise. Appreciate it while it thrives. It's a literal reflection of our lives. Vibes, Episode 8, Slow Down and Enjoy the Flowers. If you missed the last episode, I'm going to continue to say in each of the remaining episodes that the story, the quote-unquote Will and Autumn story that I had started in the first 6 episodes will not make its conclusion as promised through the rest of these episodes. I was doing short story segments of the entire story, but I write in a way where I write the story without actually doing rough drafts. The first time I write any story, it's actually its own first draft. I don't try to figure out ahead of time where I'm going to go with it. I just write it. And I found out too late, after already promising that I would put the story in each episode of the Vibes podcast, episodes 1 through 12, and I would conclude it in episode 12. The ending of it was so emotionally touching that I didn't want anyone to have to land on that one first and say, well, I'm going to listen to episode 12 first and then I'll work my way back, or I'll skip around, because it would completely mess up the flow of the rest of the chapters and the overall story. So the Will and Autumn story, the Encouragement for You official short story, I will record and upload in between the conclusion of the Vibes 12-part episodes and the beginning of the next podcast series, which I'm very excited about. The next podcast series, the next 12, the new series that's going to come out in early 2023. So if you were looking forward to another chapter, if you've been skipping around and you wonder why it's not here, that's why. It will have its own segment after this podcast. This 12-part Encouragement for You Today podcast series concludes. Slow down and enjoy the flowers. This is something that is really hidden different to me right now in many different ways. And I've learned so much, and I think anyone can learn a lot through the course of a few months. It's amazing how that works. The whole point of Encouragement for You Today is for us to recognize and accept that type of dynamic in life. I often talk about the valley, the mountain, and the volcano, and how it repeats. The valley is peace, it's tranquility. It is about introspection and asking yourself questions, because when you look up, even though you're in the valley and it's beautiful and there's wheat all around you and there's water and there's trees, you look ahead and you can see that mountain, and you can't stay in this place forever. At some point, something, someplace, someone is going to push you from this place, whether you want to or not, whether they want you or not. And suddenly in those moments we realize, yes, we are in control of our lives, but we are also reacting and responding to other people who are in control of their lives. And they affect us in ways that we can never ever imagine. How can you ever imagine how some person, place, or thing is going to affect you long term or short term? We don't know. All we can account for is what we do. And each and every day, if we can find the basics of who we are and stick to them, those are those boundaries and those morals and principles and values that we have for ourselves. Those are the things that are going to make us feel safe when we're facing the people, places, and things that will meet us at our crossroads moments, the moments where we have to make these big decisions in our lives that affect not only ourselves but other people. Those moments when we feel like we have to jettison a person, place, or thing, when they no longer serve us and we have to say goodbye to people, places, and things that have come to define us in a lot of ways. But there's always this. We have time to stop and think. And that is something that has been hidden differently with me right now. Grief. Thinking about people who have not been here any longer. Thinking about past rights and wrongs we've done in the past. Crossroads moments where we look back and we say that was the right decision or that was the wrong decision. I have someone in my life that is very special who's been talking about grief lately and has actually been making me think a lot about it. If you follow me at all, you know that my father passed away when I was 14 years old. As a 43-year-old man, I don't go a day without thinking about him. And every time there's a loss in my family, and I've had a lot of losses in my family, friends, I've had people that has been close to me that I was mentoring that was murdered. These things start to add up. The older you get, you accumulate more deaths than weddings. I remember as a child, there was a wedding every year. It was something that we look forward to. It was almost like a family reunion, with fireworks. It was just bigger. It was a bigger family reunion. And it was like for close to a decade. It just seemed like every year we went to at least one wedding. And then those tables turned, and then every year we were going to at least one funeral. And as you get older, you realize, wow, if something happened to me, I'm not the only person that's going to be affected by it. In fact, I may even have the easiest route out. It's the people behind me, the people who are left behind, that are going to feel the brunt of my passing the most. These are things we don't think about enough. I've certainly been thinking about them more. It's important. It's very important. And our relationship with the people around us that we take for granted, even when we say that we don't. And I'm even guilty of this. I will say that I'm very grateful for this and that. But what does that really mean? Am I really grateful? And that's when I started thinking about, we always say to people, give the flowers to the people that mean the most to you while they're alive, not when they're dead. When they're dead, it's too late. Why not praise the ones that we know are very special in our lives? Why not praise them while they're alive? Why not open up and be vulnerable with the people that we know we love most when they're alive? Why wait to praise and shower them with all the things we know we wish we should have said years, decades ago, when they're laying in a casket or sitting on an urn, or in an urn, I should say, on your fireplace? I refuse any longer to look at people as if they don't mean something to me when they do. I refuse to walk away from a relationship with someone, even if it's shaky, it's broken, maybe even not even functional. But if it's a part of me, if it's something that I'm gravitating towards, if it's some person that I know, even in the slimmest chance that this person may not feel the same way about me, it's hard for me to deny that when someone has had an impact on me, I'm going to tell them. It's the right thing to do. And I feel better after I do it. And it's hard because you're so vulnerable and you don't know what this person's going to say. You don't know what they're going to say. You don't know what they're going to do. It's hard. Same with like visiting places that you've been to before that has a lot of bad memories for you. Maybe it doesn't give you the best vibes. Maybe it gives you anxiety. I've been thinking, it's important to visit places like that every once in a while. Because you're revisiting places that the former self of who you were visited. It's not you. So you can kind of detach and say, what's up with this place? You kind of look at it with a new sense of fresh eyes and wonder why you're feeling a certain way. And you can ask yourself the questions because there's no obligation for you to be attached to that place any longer if you're feeling that way. And maybe you are. We still have to ask ourselves those questions. There's things in my life that I'm attached to, and I have to ask myself, why am I so attached to this thing? What is the big deal about this thing that I'm so attached to, that I have all these emotions about? And then I started thinking about, is giving the flowers and the whole meaning of that. Slow down. That's what I fundamentally came back to. Slow down. Because, especially in today's world, where everything is so fast, everything's a bullet train. Everything is so damn fast. We just don't slow down and say, this person over here is trying to tell me something. I have a connection with this person. I need to slow down and explore this connection. Moving too fast. I'm guilty of it. Just moving too damn fast. And life is going to move right along with you like that. And I started sensing that. I'm like, well, if I'm moving this fast, isn't life moving, at least in my perception and my observation of it, because I can only live my life. I'm like, if I'm moving this fast, the rest of the world is moving fast too. But if I slow down, the rest of the world will slow down with me. Over the past few months, I have really put that in practice. And you could probably hear it even in my voice. Again, if you've been following me, listen to the way I sound now and go back and listen to a couple podcasts, 4 or 5 episodes ago, even maybe in phase 2. Go back to some of the color phases that I did back then. You can hear the difference in my voice. I'm just slowing down. And I've noticed that, and I've been feeling it. And I think part of the reason why I'm doing that is because what is the point of rushing towards the finish line? As a marathon runner, which I am, one of the things that I enjoy is that I'm only competing against myself. That I know the finish line's there. I know the mileage. I know what it takes to train myself for a 10-mile race, a 6-mile race, a 13-mile race, whatever it is. I know the extent of what I have to train myself to get to that finish line. So when I start the race, I don't really think about when I'm going to get to the finish line because I know I'm going to get there. When I'm in the race, I get to just enjoy the race. I get to slow down and enjoy the race. I'm not trying to get to the finish line as fast as possible, which is why I enjoy running. I don't need to be in a hurry to run, which is why I enjoy marathon running, because you don't have to be in a hurry. It's about enjoying the experience. And when you do go past the finish line, the joy that comes from it is that you were disciplined enough to finish. It had nothing to do with the speed. It had nothing to do with, the medal that you get at the end. Those things are nice. Those things are motivational tools. Those things do inspire you. Those things are things that, for me, are, daily affirmations for me. It's like, just keep going, keep pushing. But I got into this rut over the last few years of feeling like I have to do everything fast while encouraging other people to slow down. But I never put that on myself to slow down. I would tell people I'm working with, slow down, do this and this, but I never took my own advice. I would say, you need to focus on this area of your life because it has more meaning than you think, but I wouldn't take my own advice. we do the exercise of how are you feeling? And mentally, physically, emotionally, I focus on more than anything the spiritual aspect of it was something else that, again, as a complete individual, you're only complete if you're complete. You're only balanced out if all the things that are there to be balanced out are present. Otherwise, something could be added or taken away and it's going to mess that balance up. And I have denied myself in real time the opportunity to explore every part of myself without having to feel like I'm failing myself because I may have to go a different direction than I wanted to or even realize I needed to. Now, what I mean by that is sometimes we get on a path and it feels right and it is not wrong. And we still need to get off that path. That is something that hit me harder than anything over the past few months. I realized you can be on the right path and you still need to get off of that path and go explore something. It's branching out, and as good as that path feels, as good as it looks, and you look ahead and you're like, this is why would I get off this path? Is something's like you're on the right path. You're almost there, but there's another path right off of here. And if you just make this slight little bit of a right turn or a left turn, you're going to find that you were missing something, and it may be the biggest thing to change your life. And over the past few months, I've been doing that. And there have been things that have been happening to me that I cannot explain when it comes to accepting what life gives you. But you have to understand your purpose and who you are first in order for that to resonate. And that is a big deal. This is why I stress so much the inner work on yourself to know who you are mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Not everyone's spiritual, and that's okay. There are many different definitions of it, but I have found that, and I won't go too in depth with it here because I'm still exploring a lot of it, and I want to make sure that I'm not just talking out of my rear end just for the sake of one particular podcast, because this could change in the future. But I will say, when you surrender to things you have closed up in your heart, when you decide to go back to a door and reopen it after you've closed it for years and decades maybe, you will find a new perspective on things, and it's hard. And that's the challenge. How do we go and we look at parts of ourselves that we've closed off, that we've said that door is closed, I will never go back into that area of my life again. I would never explore that area. It's too scary. It's too emotionally compromising for me. It gives me anxiety. These are things that I've said to myself, and I think this is things that we say to ourselves. All of us say to ourselves about a lot of things we have in our lives. And the older we get, we can sense this, and you start closing more doors. But I think it should be the other way around. The older we get, we need to go back and reopen some of those doors that we closed so many years ago. It can be in any area. It can be a door that we close mentally. It can be a door that we close emotionally. It can be a door that we close physically. And it can be a door that we close spiritually. And for me, it's the spiritual door that is making the biggest difference in my life. Probably over the last few years, it's been me leading myself back to where I know I should be, but I fight against it because of all the hurt and the pain that has come to me when I once believed this certain thing. I didn't want to go back to it because of the pain and the hurt, but I didn't realize that the challenge was that that's where the faith part comes into it in any spiritual aspect. If you don't believe when you're at your lowest, then what is the point? So that is something that I'm exploring, and that's just an example of what I'm going through. But it goes back to me having to slow down, but also listening to others when they're speaking about their truths, and also looking at the things around you. We have all been in situations where we can't explain why something is happening the way that it's happening, but it has to be happening for a reason. And even if it wasn't, we still have to deal with those things, right? We've all been through that, where something is happening and we're like, I don't know why this is happening. This is really weird, but I have to deal with this. What is this? And it could be a person, place, or thing. And I think a lot of times that's where I'm circling back to giving flowers to this. That's when people who you thought would never be in your life again or had exited your life suddenly pop back up and they have new meaning. But you've had enough time to process who you are and you've moved on. This goes back to those doors again. And a door that you would have never walked up to and said, I'm going to reopen this door. It's almost like reopening the wound. That's what it would feel like to open up that door. It's like opening up an old wound. But you're like, you know what? Enough time has passed. This wound has healed. I can open this door. And when you open that door, suddenly there's something behind it that is saying, welcome home. And that could be frightening. Because if you have any negative feelings attached to that, and this could be a person, a person that you haven't seen in a long time comes back in your life and you're like, oh my goodness, what the heck is going on? Maybe this person wasn't so good for you years and years ago, but now it's like, you know what? That ship has sailed. It's water under the bridge. Maybe I could talk to this person. We could figure out some things. And sometimes that happens. And you've seen people, they have, over time, this can be family members as well. This could be people at your church. It could be people you went to freaking elementary school with. This could be an old teacher. It could be anyone, someone you work with. People phase in and out of our lives. But there are some people, once you meet them, you just can't envision yourself having your life without them either coming and going or staying. And these people are the ones where I say you have to give the flowers while we're alive. Because they're coming in and out of our lives for a reason. It's not a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. I do believe there is something higher than us. A higher power, and there's tons of different religions out there. Again, I have thought about a lot about what I feel about that, and I just feel like there's certain things that happen. We have to stop and slow down and figure it out for ourselves what we believe it means. And it doesn't mean that we have to do these big drastic over assumptions about this must be destined. It's like, maybe it's not destined, but it means something. It can mean nothing, but we do need to slow down and examine, because that's how we learn about who we are. We learn about who we are by slowing down and understanding the people, places, and things that are in our lives every single day. Whether they're coming in and out of our lives or they're there to stay, whether they're family members or churchgoers or co-workers or whoever they are in our lives for a reason. And I don't think we spend enough time examining our relationships with people, places, and things. But I go back to people most, because that's, a human being to a human being interaction is different than me with an inanimate object or some place. It's important to know what our relationships really truly mean while people are alive, and we don't take the time, and this is me included, and I have really tried to change this. We have to have more vulnerable conversations with the people that are closest to us. We have to understand the people that are in our lives, why we feel the way we do towards them, instead of slapping these labels on, this is my ex-girlfriend, this is my ex-wife, this is my ex-boyfriend, this is my ex whoever. This is the church I used to go to. This is the job I used to go to. That's my ex-boss. This is this person. This is this person. I don't have a relationship with my son. I don't have a relationship with my daughter. My aunt stole my money. It's always these labels, and we'll just say what our relationship is, but we move on towards the next relationship. We move on to the next place. We get the next thing. It's always that moving on. Again, moving too fast. We're not figuring out what do these relationships really mean in our lives, because a lot of times they are far more important than we realize, and we don't realize it until that person, place, or thing is gone. We don't realize it until that person, place, or thing is gone. Then and only then do we start to realize, wow, I should have examined that relationship a little further. And sometimes we can see it coming. We've known people where maybe they've gotten sick, and now your time with them is limited. You may only have a week. You may have a month. You may have a year. Suddenly those times just seem really, really short. Not enough. I remember the last time I saw my father. He was suffering from dementia. And I don't think back then in 1994 they really knew that back then. But me having studied everything I've studied, I've worked with dementia and Alzheimer's patients, and I can clearly say he had dementia. He had no clue who I was. And he tried, but it wasn't there. Because I remember with my father that our relationship, it was unique. And the only other person who would be able to describe our relationship is him. But he's no longer here. And as a child, 14 years old, he unexpectedly dies. How do you give your flowers to someone when they're alive when you're not even old enough to understand the concept of death? That is part of the overall arching human story. We don't know when people are going to go away. But let's take it back to us. We don't know when we're going to go away. That's why I really want to stress that our health is important. Our spirituality is important, if you believe in that thing. I truly do. Our mental health is important. Our emotional health is important. Are we the best versions of ourselves for the people around us who rely and care for us the most and love us the most? Are we really every single day waking up and trying to put into practice every single day whatever it takes for us to make sure we can live as long as possible, not only for ourselves, but for the people who rely on us, who love us the most? No, we don't really have an obligation to live the longest, healthiest life for other people. Really, that's up to us. I mean, we have an obligation for ourselves. We don't owe that to other people. But as a person who had a father who never wanted to go to the hospital to even get a checkup, I would say it would have been nice if he looked at it that way. It would have been nice if he would have woke up every single day and thought, I need to live as long as I possibly can for my family, for my children. He didn't. I'm going to. That's something I want to do for my son. That's something I can give to my son that my father couldn't give to me. And again, it's about knowing who we are. When we wake up in the morning, we have no idea if that sun's going to set and we're still going to be here. The relationships we have with people, when there's good connections, and there's connections you cannot explain, and there's people that come in and out of your life, and there's people that you're attached to, you hold on to them. They're valuable. They mean something more than you know, and you won't know it until they're gone. And They don't always have to die for that to happen. Sometimes, and a lot of times for us, they're not dead. It's people we have to leave when we move to another state, when we move to another church, when we move to another job, when we move to another relationship. You grieve as if that person's gone and they're still alive. Sometimes that kind of grief is even worse, because your heart is reaching out to say to you, hey, why can't you just talk to this person? But you can't. Or why can't you go to this place? This place you used to live at that you love so much, and you can't go back. Why can't you just go get that thing that you love so much? And you can't, because that thing is gone. That's that appreciation every single day. We have to have true gratefulness. Appreciation for every person, place, or thing that is in our lives now, not when it's gone. When it's gone, it's too late. You have to appreciate it now. Slow down. Enjoy the flowers. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall. We rise and maintain balance.